Cool, Dimitri. You said you managed to link the database to the environment. That sounds cool. How does that work?
Yeah, hey Steve. So I want to deploy a Rails application, and I wanted to use AutoDevOps with database support with migration and everything. The problem is that for production use, it's not quite recommended to have your database under the same Kubernetes cluster as everything else, like review apps, like your web servers and so on. So originally I started with that, but then I figured out, okay, I want a reliable source for my data, and I just used Amazon RDS and created a Postgres server there. But what I wanted, I didn't want to create a database for review apps for temporary deployments. So
makes sense.
What is great about GitLab is that you can add variables, of course, for CI/CD, but you can also provide an environment for where these variables are in place, are affected. So in my particular case, what I did is that I created a new variable, the database URL for production environment, and I put there pass to my Amazon database. Basically, database URL that contains username, contains the host, and everything else. So now when GitLab deploys production CI job, it will use this database URL as one to connect to. And another variable here is Postgres enable. This variable is responsible for either we want to use or don't want to use Postgres server that is running within the Kubernetes cluster that is connected.
Okay, so this is like Postgres stateless in the cluster.
Yeah,
so this is the Postgres in the cluster. Like if we deploy again, this version of Postgres will be gone.
I think it's more simple and just don't start the Postgres service as it is when it spawns the container, or maybe just don't connect to it. But I figured like I just disabled since I don't need it. Just use all the available tools here.
Yeah. And just to be clear, you are using Postgres. You're just connecting to an RDS Postgres instance. So this should really say Postgres inside cluster enabled.
Yeah. So it's basically disable Postgres in Kubernetes because we are going to use a remote Postgres by using the database URL instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Chris, maybe make a note that we should really rename this to Postgres in Kubernetes or something like that, this environmental variable, because this would be super confusing to any user.
The trick here is to put, to specify environment where you want this. If you look at the other variables, they have all environments. So they're effective on any stage of CI job, but particularly Postgres enabled and database URLs, they're specific to production environment. So when you deploy a review app, it will use not a production environment, so it will use a Kubernetes Postgres, but specifically for production environment, it will be in place. And it's pretty easy to add when you specify the name of the variable, let's say database URL, and we put some value here. The environmental scope, it has all by default. So what you want to put here is, let's say, production, right? If you want the same for staging, you create a separate set of variables with own URLs, own values, but for staging environment. I don't have staging one, but I use production, so I do that. Also, I checked the mask variable and protected variable flags because usually the database URL contain some sort of a password within it, so it's good to remove it from all the login.
Makes sense. Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, you still had to kind of create that RDS instance
Yeah.
yourself. So it would be kind of cool if GitLab kind of understood that, okay, review apps, we can just, the database doesn't need persistence, but like production, the database needs persistence and needs to be created outside of the Kubernetes cluster as a managed servers on the cloud provider.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, we're in this world where maybe in some far future, people are going to run their databases inside Kubernetes, and it's theoretically possible, but I see very few companies actually doing it. So I think GitLab should work the way most people work.
Yeah, next year it won't change. So it makes sense for GitLab to adapt to customer needs, to user needs. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, very cool. Thanks for showing me. Anything else you want to show?
No, I think that's the most important part. Everything else would be just showing the the application running, which has no particular value in it.
Cool. Thanks again. I'll stop the live stream.